Everything that I do in the first year or more in my project Rewilding and Managing My Land for Biodiversity is to draw inspiration from other places, to meet experts, and just generally to make sure that I don't put a foot wrong and make some major move on my land that has impacts down the line and that I regret in the future. So I've come to an ancient Irish woodland to draw inspiration and to see what I can learn. And to be honest, there's so much here that I don't know where to start and what to show you. It is a magical place, as you can see. So come on, let's go through the woods, see what we can see. And at the end of this video, I'm going to show you something that I shot here a couple of months ago that is just magical. And here is one of the reasons that I just love coming into these woods. I can barely take a step anywhere around here without stepping on a sapling that has self-seeded. For example, here in front of me is a young oak, which will grow into one of these majestic trees behind me and form the canopy of the woods in the future. And right beside it here is a young hawthorn, which will form part of the understory in the years to come. The saplings that I just showed you are all self-seeded. They planted themselves there with the help of Mother Nature, and they're doing really well. And there's more here in front of me. It's fantastic to see. But these woods are also assisted and managed by man. Some evidence of that is something called coppicing. Coppicing is where old growth is cut back, like this stump here, but not too deep, and that allows new growth to come from that stump and start a new generation, like this hazel here beside me. And another example I'm sitting on. This is an old oak, which was a couple of 100 years old and had reached the end of its maturity, and it's been felled. But this oak has not ended in its journey. It will now become home to thousands of invertebrates and a hunting ground for small mammals, and play host to a whole ream of life. So you might be wondering, oh, why would you cut down old trees and old growth in a woodland that's doing perfectly well? Well, it's because it will put a finite lifetime on that woodland if all the trees are in and around the same age. So you want multiple generations coming up behind the older trees. And so when woodlands are managed by people, sometimes older trees are selected to be cut down to allow new growth to come up, and that's where coppicing comes in, and also allow a spill of light down to the ground floor to allow saplings to naturally come up as well. So as you can see here, I've gone only just a little bit further into the woods, and the environment has changed completely. There's much less light, the canopy's much lower down, and that's because I've stumbled upon a hazel patch. This hazel would have been planted deliberately many years ago for its many, many purposes, and one of the main ones was fencing. Hazel was used to fence fields and to fence properties, and because it was organic, those fences became a habitat for birds to nest in, and for invertebrates to live in, and for mammals to hunt in. But in the advent of metal and chicken wire and such, unfortunately that microhabitat and the use of hazel for that purpose has been forgotten. One thing that's important to note around here that may not happen without the intervention of people is that there are no invasive species. We have a lot in Ireland. We have rhododendron and we have Japanese knotweed and things like gunnera that were brought in for their aesthetic value into gardens and estates, and they are beautiful, but they spread themselves all over the country. In particular, rhododendron, for example, will spread and kill all the light down to the forest floor. It'll grow over anything, and nothing has a chance of growing under it or around it. But there are no invasive species here, and that is thanks to maintenance and the assistance of the people that look after this land. You may remember earlier in the video I mentioned that a couple of months ago when I was here I saw something absolutely magical. Well, that was in this exact spot, and I was standing over here, believe it or not, flying my drone around inside here, capturing this. how amazing was that? I had never seen such an ocean of bluebells before. It was just so beautiful to see. Now, you may have noticed that most of the trees around me are deciduous, and we do actually have one native conifer in Ireland, and that's the Scots pine. It's this tree here beside me. There are a few of them scattered around these woods. But similar to the deciduous trees, they have their canopies way up high, allowing loads of light down to the forest floor so that things like those bluebells can flourish with just a little bit of shade. We have bracken, we have moss, we have clover, we have lichen, we have grass, we have all sorts of things that flourish on the forest floor here because of the amount of light that they're getting, and everything that feeds on them and that lives in them can flourish too. So, just by way of comparison, I wanted to show you what the opposite of a native Irish well-lit woodland looks like, and this is it. I'm still in Ireland, but these are Norway spruce. They're non-native conifers, and they've been planted here deliberately because they grow much faster than our native deciduous trees, so they're much more usable for timber much quicker. But as you can see, they're much more packed in together. Their branches are much lower down, which is why I have to sit down. And if you look at the ground, there's only some moss growing here, and the ground is carpeted in their pines. So very little life has a chance of getting up through the ground here. There's very little light to invigorate growth. So the deciduous native trees have very little chance of coming up and reclaiming their land. I don't know if you can see behind me a bit further up, there's a bit of a clearing. There's a patch of lovely green light there. So there's a bit of light going down, and straight away some native life is starting to come back up there. But in here, where the trees are still tall and dense, there's no native life. These trees contribute nothing to Irish biodiversity, to native biodiversity. They just simply don't belong here. Even deers have no interest in them, and they can't even walk around in here because their branches are so low down. 80% of Ireland used to be covered in woodland just like this. But unfortunately, we've lost the vast majority of it. But the heartwarming thing is there are people all across the country who are doing their best to rewild, maintain and grow more woodland like this and protect the ones that still exist. Well everyone, as always, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I have got so much inspiration from these ancient Irish woodlands. Unfortunately, in my lifetime, I will never see this kind of woodland on my land, but I can get it started for future generations, both of people and of biodiversity. I really hope you've enjoyed watching this video here today. Please feel free to subscribe, and I'll keep making more of these videos so you can join the REWILDLIFE.